to the show, ladies and gentlemen. It's another beautiful day for racing.
Welcome everyone to round 3 of IRT's International Multiclass series at the circuit of Interlagos. I'm Tomi Kutashi and I'll be your host today. So today we've got 100% excitement, 100% readiness, and well, we hope a 100% server hold this time. This race had to be rescheduled from last week, but we are having high hopes for this one at Interlagos, which is among the more short racetracks of the world, with spanning for just about 4.3 kilometers. But it's more among the twistier circuits, with plenty of elevation change, tight corners, and a very long run on the home straight towards turn 1. So if there's a place excellent for multi-class racing, this is basically it. If you're new to the championship, the event format is the following. We have a 30-minute qualifying session, which will start very soon. And after that, we have a 60-minute, 1-hour-long race with one mandatory pit stop for each and every driver on the track, which they have to take between the 10th and 50th minute of the race. Before we take a look at what the drivers can cook up in the qualifying session, let's take a look at the championship standings. So in TCR, well, the TCR results had been the most consistent so far in the first 2 rounds, as the 3 guys in the top 3 spots finished both rounds in Daytona and Silverstone so far in the very same order you can see here. So Kasuni so far maxed out the points he could get, with leading the championship with 56 points ahead of Olehar and Prentice. And Silverio also in 5th place. He's a very important guy to pay attention to, because albeit having 0 points so far, that's not because of any skill issue. Far as I saw, he will be on track today, so he's most definitely a person who means a threat for the top championship positions later in the season. If we move on to GT3, 4 drivers are incredibly close, in not just the points, but with their skills. The top 4 with Skriapis, Sandersky, Marcek, and Cambo. Each round they have been putting an absolute beast performance so far on track. So I wouldn't at all bet on who will take the cake at the end of the championship. And last but not least, LMP2. The LMP2 championship so far is the absolute closest one, with Lenarczyk having only 1 point ahead of Yun in the 2nd place. And also let's not forget about Malakauskas, who, despite having some point deficit from participating in 1 less round than his competitors, is a definite favorite for the championship win as well. And let's not forget about Nogowski as well in P4, who is also a pretty consistent. He is showing up pretty consistently to the championship so far, scoring very confident points, currently holding P4 in the championship. And what I have is some good news for you, as you will be able to see in just a second. We are rolling, we are on track for qualifying in Interlagos, with Multiclass setting a time. The LMP2s are finishing all their times. Oh, they're pretty close on track. First, with Multiclass securing P1 provisionally. The best time in the pre-qualification was in LMP2 a 1:24.3. So I think we'll definitely see lots of improvements from the three guys in that class. Also in GT3 it was a 1:29.7 set by Andy Cambo. So definite improvements are awaiting in the GT3 field as well. And let me see, in TCR, it was Nobertus Prentice who set a 1:39.6. That might be the closest we have already in the current qualifying settings, with Silverio setting a 1:40.4. As I'm speaking, Malakauskas has set a 24.9, currently holding onto the 1 in qualifying. If we give some attention to the TCRs, more precisely this driver, Jose Petit Torres, who is a new kid on the block for IMS. This is his first time participating in our championship, but he's not at all a new kid on the block in a World Team Series, having more than 300 races under his belt so far. He's among the more experienced drivers. I'm very curious to see what performance will he be able to put on track against our seasoned, let's say seasoned TCR drivers. P2, Lenartic is giving a fight to Malakauskas, two guys being only hundreds of seconds from each other. Silverio might be trying to steal some slipstream from Torres, if not just trying to annoy him a bit. So, which was successful, because Torres missed a very crucial corner leading to the very long start finish straight, losing some precious time, and yeah, he wasn't even able to improve on his time, and the TCR guys are already having a race. So Malakauskas went to the pits to take a little breather after temporarily setting a better time than Lenartic did in the last rest of his laps. But it's lovely to see that the P2 battle is so very close for the pole position. Already cannot wait to see these guys fighting it out in the race. And Arctic is having a little struggle in the first sector, not necessarily being able to improve on his time so far. See, green second sector. Let's see if... Oh, well, Arctic was... Actually, it was much closer than I thought it was going to be to his best lap so far, but still not quite enough to snatch that pole position from Multiclass. Ooh, just as we focus our attention to Sendersky, currently holding P2 in the championship. And in the qualifying session as well so far, being 6/10 behind Cambo, which is a pretty considerable gap between the first two guys in GT3. But we could say we still have 20 minutes of qualifying. We are only 1/3 of the way through the quali session. Sendersky today is the only person who isn't driving a BMW M4 or Audi R8. Those two German cars seem to be a very popular choice for this round, but I mean, the guy is sitting in P2, so he definitely can bring his best out of this Honda. Going through the twisty section of the track, let's see if he can turn that yellow first sector to at least a green second one. Not quite it so far. We need to focus much more on his next lap because, as I said, he has it's quite a deficit compared to Cambo in first place. Oh, one of TCR, Torres, the new guy in TCR, disconnected. I don't know if it's some issues or him retiring. Hopefully he will get back to the race. Price has only a very tiny margin between him and Martek, fighting for E3 currently in the GT3 field. Let's see if the driver can improve on his left time, just crossing the finish line. Oh, and not just a little bit, he jumps into P2, overtaking not just Martek but Sendersky as well. Oh, looks like just as I switched them, all the TCRs are pitting. Let's focus on the LMP2s now. The LMP2 standings are settled down a bit. The drivers haven't been able to improve on their lap times since the last time we took a look at them. Multiclass and Lenartic are much more closer in pace than Nagowski in P3. and we have half a second deficit from the Polish driver. This will not necessarily be the lap he will jump on the top of the standings. But Malakauskas makes a further improvement to his lap time with a 1:24.6. As we're approaching the halftime of the qualifying session, Lenartic slowly has to get his head together if he wants to give a challenge to Malakauskas to get the pole position. Of course, we could argue that they will have an hour to battle out, and of course the points are given for the race, not the qualifying, but it is still just obviously better to finish ahead all the other drivers. I kind of feel like Will Buxton in the Netflix series, saying that if you finish first in the qualifying session, you get the first position to start the race, which sounds like an obvious thing, of course, but obviously it doesn't only give you a track position ahead of the others, but also this qualifying is like the first little mental brawl between two people, especially when they are as very close in skills as Malakauskas and Lenartic are. I hope what we're having right now with all the lap times being quite unchanged, or if not the lap times, but rather the positions in all three classes being unchanged, I hope this is just a calm before the storm, as we're approaching the last 10 minutes of qualifying. You can see that people are really driving their cars to the edge. They go as far on the track limits as they possibly can. Obviously, that's what you expect from a qualifying session. If there's a place where you give 110% of your potential performance, it is qualifying. You cannot be as bold in the race, of course. You cannot risk to crash out and lose precious positions, but here it's is the more risk, more win sort of situation. When Martek actually jumps to P3, overtaking Santorsky is steadily losing positions in GT3, already down to P4. I'm very curious to see if he has anything to pull out of his pockets in the last 10-11 minutes of qualifying. And Malakauskas is also slowly but steadily increasing his gap at Lenartic, with a getting in D1 24.5 territory. Purple second sector. This lap ought to be something big. Well, a minor improvement over his lap time, but Alan Arctic also had a considerable improvement, so it is only justifiable from Malakauskas to be trying to find every single little thousandth of a second, because you never know. You never know what amount of time will be decisive at the end of the qualifying. Well, Sindersky cannot quite find his space against his competitors so far, which cannot be said about Lenartic, who is only 4,000 away, just what we discussed just a few minutes ago. That and here, with competition this close, thousands of a second can be absolutely decisive. So far in the TCR field, Silverio is holding onto a very confident lead, of leading 8 tenths ahead of Prentice in P2. And well, I don't know if Cassoni is taking a gamble or what is the motive behind not going a single lap time. But I mean, if there's one guy who could win from third position, it's absolutely him. Now Hillman's a guy who we haven't seen so far on camera. Here he is, with 5 seconds behind Marcek in P4. but I just love that he's constantly out on track, constantly trying, not at all giving up. That is certainly something very honorable. Oh, having a little dance out of the right-hander. Let's see if he's going to be able to improve on his lap time. Only 3 cars left on track, with 5 minutes to go from the qualifying session. I'm curious actually if anyone is going to go out with, for example, just like 2 laps worth of fuel with an extremely light car for the last few minutes of qualifying, because this is really the last shot our drivers can have to get a better position for the race. Price is only 1/10 behind Sendersky. Competition for a podium position. At least in qualifying, that is, of course. Ooh, having a little power slide from turn 1. It's certainly not going to help with his lap time. Ooh, losing 2.3 seconds just in the first sector. It's so very demoralizing, especially when you're this close to the end of the qualifying session. Here you have your last shots to improve your position, and any mistake here feels like doing 100 mistakes at once. You see plenty of loose rear ends. You can see that the guys are indeed pushing their cars to the absolute limit. Bear in mind that the more than 2 seconds of gap you see on the bottom of the screen is of course compared to P1. It's not compared to the best time of the given driver. So Bryce can absolutely get P2 in his lap, if not B1, be in the competition for P1 currently. And I cannot cease to be amazed by the soundtrack of this Audi. It's just the V10 engine makes such a lovely note. only Fries and Hillman in two guys from the GT3 class on the track. They'll have time to do one or maybe two more laps for Fries. Or none, as he goes back to the pits. It's only Hillman staying on track. Still trying to push a better lap time out of that BMW M4. I would love this guy to see to improve on his lap time. Let's see. Didn't quite get it. I just see it's a 150, so I suspect a spin somewhere. So he has one less chance, one less lap to maybe set some improvement. That would certainly give him some confidence boost. So Hillman crossing the finish line, and we are at the end of our qualifying session. Let's take a quick look at the results. So in TCR, Silverio took the pole position with a 139.0, 8 tenths ahead of Prentice. Pretty significant lead. With Torres, he's actually disconnected from the server, albeit setting a lap time, which still puts him ahead of Kasuni without a lap time. So the Slovakian driver will, I think, still start from P3. Moving on to the GT3, Andy Cambo has set the pole position in GT3. It's definitely very good news for him. Currently sitting in P4 in the championship standings, but scoring a win on this race would certainly make him fly far ahead in the standings. 3 Polish drivers, Senderski, Fries, and Martek behind him, up to P4, and Hillman closing off the GT3 grid, sitting in P5. And last but not least, in the LMP2 grid, Malakauskas managed to take the pole position with only 4 thousandths of a second ahead of Kamil and Nartik. Ooh, man, I'm looking forward to the fight of these two guys. And behind them, Nogowski, who, as I said, also a pretty consistent. He gives pretty consistent performances on our races, so I'll be curious to see what he can put up against the two Titans in the first 2 positions in LMP2. So we have just about under 1 minute before we will be on the grid to embark on the 1-hour journey we are all waiting for. So far in the championship, we have the highest strength of field in terms of rating on the WSS side. So we could kind of say we have a little like all-star roundup of drivers of IMS so far. It'll be very interesting to see what they will bring to the track today. And we have lights out in just under 30 seconds now, so everyone get ready. And it's lights out in Interlagos for round 3 of the IMS. In P2, Kauskas, no, actually Lenartic also take a pretty good start and puts the car side by side with the pole position holder P2. Malakauskas managed to shoot faster, and Cambo actually went and overtaken the third guy in LMP2. Already having a fight between Lenartic and Malakauskas for P1. These guys are certainly not waiting out the fight for P1. Being side by side. Lenartic went a bit wide, so Malakauskas has now a tiny bit of gap behind him. Just a tiny breathing room. Sony and TCR, by the way, as I predicted already, in P1, starting from P3. It isn't good news for Malakauskas that the home straight is from the left-hander. It's actually more than a kilometer long on this track. Which is actually more than a kilometer, so it takes about 1/4 of the track length, which certainly will not help anyone who's trying to get away from his chaser, who will inevitably have some slipstream on the straight sections of the track. But Malakauskas is still leading pretty confidently ahead of Lenartic. He's taking his car a little wide. He's pushing very strongly just right at the beginning of the race. He wants to get that first position as quickly as he can. And also in TCR, Silverio is giving a chase to Cassoni, also for taking the first position. As you can see in some of the corners, and as I have learned from the previous few rounds, the huge smoke show of the TCRs is actually something considerably normal if you are aware of the attributes of these cars. So we have cars that are pretty front heavy, which means that the way these cars are set up and the way they work, the rear inside tire is actually a considerable amount of times on the braking, and the entry on the corner is lifted up from the ground. And that also means that the outside tire in the corners gets a ton of load, hence explaining the smoke that we can as well see here very well. On fries from GT3 already in the pits. Pretty sure there was some unseen action that happened to him. He actually started from P3 in GT3. So, well, now he has just a bit less than an hour to make up for the huge gap the others will be ahead of him. And bear in mind that he will also need to clear his mandatory pit stop, as the pit window for that only starts 10 minutes after the race starts. So the field is already stretching out quite a bit in all three of the classes. So with Cassoni slowly but surely getting farther and farther from Silverio, although the Portuguese driver is still just in 1 second behind the DCI leader. Oh, and now in P2, something happened in Malkauskas. He's only the third position. I wouldn't be surprised if, I mean, obviously there was some sort of more grave mistake, or maybe a battle one bit too aggressive, so he got sent back to P3. And we did quite a considerable gap behind Nugaski as well, not just Lenartic. This will certainly spice up the LMP2 fight. Here Lenartic has quite the opportunity to build some gap ahead of Yun, who is currently not racing today, unfortunately. So the Polish driver will be able to build quite a lead in the championship. But also Malakauskas, if he manages to win this race, which is absolutely within his skill level, it's literally nothing is lost so far. He can also, I think he can also jump ahead a few positions in the championship, making up for the one race deficit he has compared to the top three in the LMP2 standings. And slowly but surely he is getting closer and closer to Nugaski. If Malakauskas plays his cards well, he'll be able to overtake the Polish driver before they even start giving the entry of turn 1. He's closer and closer, corner by corner, and he will have a lot of help from the good old Mr. Slipstream here. Gaski going for the sideline. Ooh, and spins out. Almost taking Malakauskas with himself. Well, I would say this was an easy overtake, but it took some reflexes from Malakauskas to avoid the car that was just in a 90-degree angle ahead of him, just completely blocking the track across. Now he has an 8-second gap to work down behind an Arctic. Which will only get more interesting very soon because the LMP2 field is slowly reaching the TCRs. No beta, they don't have a lot of cars to clear, but still, especially if you reach the slower cars in the tight corners, that can make your job. That can certainly make your job a whole lot more trickier than you would want it to be. And within a span of an hour, that will, of course, inevitably happen. So the pit window is now open for the mandatory pit stop, although I would be surprised if anyone would go and take their mandatory stops. Usually people just go at about halftime of the race, which is of course the most logical, unless you're trying to do some real advanced tactics. And so far, Kasuni hasn't been able to get far enough from Silveria to be comfortable. I love to see that the Portuguese driver is giving him a real run for his money, because Kasuni had been pretty much unrivaled so far in our previous Sinar 1 Cup, as well as the first 2 runs of the International Multiclass series. Well, the TCR traffic certainly did not help Nugaski, who just, as our TCR leaders, having having quite a large gap, 10 seconds behind Malakauskas in P2, who is getting closer to Lenartsi, but yeah, he's eating away the seconds steadily. But still, it will take quite a few laps for him to reach the overall leader. It's lovely to see Silverio fighting for the first position, because he also had a very unfortunate time back in Silverstone. Despite clashing for the top spot as well there, he apparently got taken out by an LMP2 traffic, and had to DNF, which is of course a real shame. So I think we were hoping for him to have a better race here, which so far he's absolutely having, although Suni is now building a small gap ahead of him. Hillman from E4 in the GT2 class is going for the first pit stop. Ooh, Fry's take a little tour in the grass. Well, he wasn't really having a marvelous race so far, and well, this will certainly not build any more confidence for him. The rear end out is very loose. Yeah, it sounds very much like the Polish driver is was driving very slowly in the first few last few corners. Excuse me. I wouldn't be surprised if that car was actually damaged. Can we just lose a few positions on the timing? And yes, he is indeed P3, and Sony and Silverio are having a real clash. As I'm unlucky, Cindersi just passed them, so we can actually take a look at the fight for P1 in DCR class. Kind of unexpected, as Kasumi was getting farther and farther from Silverio, but Portuguese driver can seemingly always find a way to get closer to Kasumi or championship leader. I strongly feel like this wasn't the last time we saw these two Cupras side by side. scoring a win in TCR, even scoring a P2 will mean Silverio some serious points. He and Malakauskas are in kind of the same boat. Looking at that, both of them are extremely high performance drivers. They only have point deficit behind the championship leaders because they just missed the race from the championship. So since we have 8 rounds, they absolutely do have business in the championship. And Silveria's yet again at the very same place, trying to get a hold into P1. Maybe trying for a switchback. That's it couldn't quite fit the nose of the car by the side of Kasuni's. But he's holding a real siege for that P1 in TCR class. Constantly showing himself in the mirrors of Kasuni. Oh, they are very close, going for that start-finish straight. Almost touching the front and rear bumpers and going side by side into turn 1. Sony defending the inside, but Silverio setting himself up. Oh no, Kasuni could hold. He actually hold it. He was really on the edge, but he managed to hold the position. What a fight we're seeing from several laps for the lead in TCR. They're both abusing the track limits as much as they can, but of course that's natural. That might explain why they have such a large gap ahead of Pranis in P3, despite them having a fight. By the way, just from the corner of our eyes while we are watching the clash for P1 in TCR, let's also not deny that Malakauskas is only 3.4 seconds behind Dolnarczyk in the lead, having worked down more than half of the gap he had between the Polish driver. You can actually see them in one frame together now. Both having cleared the TCR traffic. We will be certain to keep an eye out for their fight for the overall lead as well. Also, Cambo in P3 and GT3 is closing on Martek. That will be an interesting one as well. So a lot of good fights shaping up for the next couple of laps, next couple of minutes. Those two LMP2s put quite a bit of gap between the first 2 drivers in TCR, so Kasuni has a little breathing room now. But Silverio's been there, done that now several times in the race, working down some gap, especially when it's less than a second, is seemingly nothing for the driver in P2 currently. Excuse me, I was looking at the championship standings, but Kasuni has lost the car. Ooh, and I see some pretty severe damage on the Cupra. Well, look away from 1 second for 1 second, and this is what you get. Oh, and he has to go into the pits now. Repairing that damage will certainly take quite some time. And as you can see, several drivers are in the pits. We are approaching halftime in the race, so that's just natural that people are going for the mandatory pit stops. Oh no, do excuse me, actually, that didn't take a whole lot of time for Sony to get rid of the damages. Yeah, in Assetto Corsa, the cosmetic damage on the car sometimes can look much more dramatic than the actual mechanical damages, so... Still, Kasuni is now less than, well, a bit less than 35 seconds behind Silverio. Of course, I think both TCR drivers, apart from Kasuni, are... Yes, they are yet to take their pit stops, but still, crashing out certainly does not help you when you are trying to hold first position. And in LMP2, none of the LMP2 drivers have done their pit stops yet, so the possible fight we are looking for here, with Malakauskas being only 2.3 seconds behind the Arctic, is very much live. Very interesting. All Malakauskas, Cambo, and Kasuni, all three of them lost the car and have spent some time outside of the track from P1 and had to work the gap down to get back to the first position, but seemingly all three of them are just doing a marvelous job. Well, Cambo has actually... Oh, he has actually hit a server from P1 in GT3. Oh, I was curious. He wasn't at all in a bad position. He was the only one so far who haven't done the mandatory pit stop, but still, it's well, it's shocking to see. Kauskas has really set his eyes on the prize, setting a purple lap time and now officially being less than 1 second behind Lenarczyk, the LMP2 leader overall. And both having to clear some GT3 traffic. well, the comfortable part of the, at least of the first half of the race, is over for Lenartic, as he now will constantly need to check his rearview mirrors for Malakauskas, who is fastly approaching. Once again, none of the LMP2 drivers have cleared their mandatory pit stops yet, so it will also be very interesting when they are going to the pit lane. So far, it seems like Malakauskas desires to get the position on track instead of overtaking Lenartic in the pits. So as an update, it's now only, oh no, not even him. It's only the 3 LMP2 drivers who hadn't cleared the mandatory pit stop yet. I was about to say Damon Silverio, but he was just exiting the pit lane as I began my sentence. So now everyone on track, apart from the overall leaders, have done the pit stops. Kauskas is just hugging those apexes so very tightly. As Lenartic seem to be missing them just a bit, and so it's not surprising that the gap is slowly but surely shrinking between the two guys. Also, Kasunia and Silverio are also back at it, so in both DCR and LMP2 the fight for P1 continues, and we're only halfway there. Race, we have as many racing, well, almost, as we had so far. So quite literally nothing is decided yet. Lenartic goes a bit wide, and that gives an excellent opportunity for Malakauskas to go around the Polish driver, choosing the outside line. And successfully going around Lenartic to take the first position. And just at the same time, Silverio also is holding it to P1 in TCR. But the fight's not at all done yet. Well, these guys in TCR just cannot leave each other to be, and that's so lovely to see. That's especially why we are here. They're being so close to each other. Silverio did manage to overtake. Oh, Cambo is back, by the way. But, well, he of course, has quite a gap with all the other GT3 drivers, but lovely to see him back. So what I was about to say is that Silverio had been able to overtake Kasuni, I think several times now, but what he haven't been able to is to actually get a hold of that first position. Kasuni always seemed to be able to attack Silverio almost like instantaneously after he loses P1. Silverio has an extremely hard time, because it's one thing to reach the driver, like work down the gap behind him, and it's one thing to overtake them, but sometimes actually keeping that P1 is at least as much as hard, or even harder than taking that position from the leader. Also, maybe for the time being, when these two guys are not side by side each other, I'd also like to bring up how good of a position Hillman in GT3 is, currently holding it to P3. Now we saw that he wasn't being able to set a lap time close to the other guys in GT3, but this is what a race that's not just like a 20-minute sprint is about, that you can very much just capitalize on being consistent, even if you're not the fastest on track, considering your one lap pace. If you're clean and consistent enough, you can absolutely capitalize on others making mistakes and being taken off track. And that's what the German driver does. So plenty of times when consistency is the name of the game for you, you can absolutely score podium positions, even if you're not the outright fastest person in the entire grid. And Silverio is still constantly filling the mirrors of Kasuni. And Nogowski from P3 now and P2, and also Lenartic, are going for their pit stops. So it seems like this is how long the P2 stretch without a pit stop, and yet again, TCR leaders side by side. Silverio on the outside, Kasuni on the inside. It's lovely to see that they battle each other very hard, but also pretty clean. It's so lovely to see an aggressive fight where they're not just still not just taking each other out. Ooh. Careful, overall leader is approaching. Ooh. Right, danger's over. The LMP2 first place has officially gone past the fighting podium sitters in DCR. So it's only Multiclass now who is yet to take their pit stops, and he is just doing that right now. Let's see how far ahead of Lenarcic will he come out of the pits. So Sandersky, the P1 holder in GT3, just passing the DCR guys. Multiclass is just exiting the pits, with Lenarcic clearing the finish line. And the Lithuanian driver has actually a quite comfortable gap ahead Lenarcic. But he still has to get those cold tires just out of the pits into a proper temperature. Silveria did get closer on the straight, but not quite close enough to be able to attack Cassoni. Oh, goes for the inside. Ah, a little fake attack. Maybe to unsettle. The moment seems like Cassoni is more seasoned than that, although they are able to go side by side for the next set of corners. Silverio attacking from the outside. Oh, almost touching, but not quite. Cassoni defending the inside line. GT3 will need to be very careful trying to pass the DCR leaders. I think that's Hillman actually behind. Yes, it's Hillman behind Silveria. Silverio went for a move in turn 1, but yet again, and for the god knows how many of time Sony has fended off the attack as they finally let the GT3 traffic go by. But the and Silverio made a grave mistake going to that corner, taking out the E3 holder in GT3. Oh well, that was quite a bold move. You could see him smashing the brakes, but it was too late. He tried to surprise Cassoni going into that left-hander, but couldn't quite hold it down. The GT3 was in a very unfortunate position. So Hillman's quite lucky from the aspect that Cambo behind him has 2 laps of the visit, so the German driver haven't really lost anything in that manner, but still, he got a hit for the rear end of his car. It's no, he's not going into the pit, so seemingly the damage he got from that crash with Silverio is negligible. So let's see if Cassoni has quite the space behind him. Silverio had been able to work down gaps, but I don't know if this is a completely different situation. This is not just like a 1.5 second gap we're looking at. This is 4 seconds between two drivers. So Cassoni certainly has the mental upside right now. So if he can stay calm enough and really bring out his very best, he might be able to maintain that gap. That would be most ideal for him. Because as we could see, Silverio is absolutely all out for that P1. He's just not at all letting go. So we have 15 minutes left of the Interlagos race. Currently in P2, Malakauskas is leading ahead of Lenartic with a sort of constant gap compared to the 4-second one they had. No, Lenartic is seeming to be working down the difference between the two cars, but I see it's actually more stable than something that's actively decreasing. So Malakauskas makes very good use of the room he has behind him. In GT3, Sundersky is leading with a 26-second gap ahead of Martek. The GT3 field had been the most spread out all throughout the race. And in TCR, Cassoni has a 1.8 seconds ahead of Silverio. Oh, sorry, no, that's actually considering the GT3 as well. So, to correct myself, Cassoni has a 4.4 second gap ahead of Silverio, quite considerable. Well, I don't know if Silverio can make that gap back. Cassoni is naturally known to be a driver who tends to make mistakes, especially without any pressure on him. But I mean, interestingly enough, neither is Silverio, because he's an experienced driver and not just blazingly fast, but fun fact, he actually has the highest safety rating on the grid on Bird Sim series. Well, the battles have calmed down quite a bit as we are slowly approaching the last 10 minutes of the race. Everyone has done their mandatory pit stops, so no one has any pressure on them from that aspect. As it stands, neither Lenartic or Silverio would be able to close on to the class leaders. At least that's not exactly how it looks from how the gap is accumulating lap by lap. Actually, Malakauskas and Lenartic had been quite similar in the last few laps in terms of pace, which is good news for Malakauskas. Despite having a fight for P1, seemingly Lenartic cannot get closer to him. And the clock is ticking. We have less than 10 minutes now till the end of the race. So Lenartic would have to take some rockets out of his pocket to get closer to the overall leader. Seemingly Malakauskas is now calm and confident enough to set purple laps, approaching the end of the race. They actually accumulated, I think like a second of gap ahead of Lenartic just in the previous lap. It's also like a little declaration for P2 to don't even bother trying to get closer to me. LMP3 seems to be the only class that maintained the order of drivers compared to qualifying. In both GT3 and TCR, we had drivers, of course, getting out of the server, which also mixed up the order a bit. Ooh, a little. Well, this was an interesting situation. Prentice, who was left by Silverio, P2 in TCR, had a little love tap. The driving holding P3 slowed down more than Silverio had anticipated. Just 5 minutes to go, and well, we could see that Silverio can still see the back of Cassonia's car, but is not at all close enough to be in striking distance. But hey, with multiclass racing, quite literally anything could happen. As we could see in, as I already mentioned, Silverio's last race, no matter how well he was keeping that second position, there can always come a car from another class, let it be faster or slower, that can completely mess up your race. So no matter the gaps you can see between drivers, it's really not over until it's over. So Cambo getting out of the equation is quite good news for Sandrski, because if he can keep P1 in GT3, he will have he will gather quite some points and will not just overtake Skriafis, who unfortunately wasn't here in this round, but he will actually accumulate a pretty visible by the naked eye lead in the GT3 standings. So this round had certainly gone well for the Polish driver. He already started the round in a good position. He managed to qualify second. And as we can see, he is now holding a 25-second lead, the biggest lead in any of the among all the leaders in the current race. So it's 2.5 minutes left, which will be I think a few laps more maybe. So yeah, if we get back to him for just a moment, Sandrski is he's no alien to scoring good positions. He actually has a 74% podium rate in all of his races so far, at least on World Sim Series, which is quite a strong statistic. Finishing every third, like out of 4 races, finishing all 3 in the top 3 spot. That's I would make that deal. So, knowing this, it's not surprising that he can hold quite a comfortable lead ahead of his competitors. And I think we will go on just one more lap, as Malakowska, as the leader, will go through the finish line just before the timer runs out. Yes, so this is the last lap. I repeat, the last lap we are looking in the round 3 of IMS in Interlagos. The field has calmed down quite a bit for the last 10 minutes of the race, despite having such close fights. I mean, Silverio is only 2 seconds behind Cassoni now, but we only have one more lap left, so we'll keep an eye out for that battle still. Malakowska's just clearing the last corners on the race. He had quite the clashes with Lenartic, but the Lithuanian driver had been performing at least the last quarter of the race better than P2 and takes the win for round 3 of the International Multiclass Series. It's still not necessarily over for the TCR field, at least not for the first 2 drivers. Cassoni has still, he cannot really kick his feet up and glide to the finish, although Silverio is not in attacking distance behind him. But Cassoni still has to pay attention down to the very last meter of the race, something he wasn't that much used to so far in the championship. Sindersky has also crossed the finish line to finish P1 in GT3, and Cassoni is going for it to dish his 3rd win, 3 out of 3. With Hillman with a pretty consistent performance, scoring a P3, crossing the finish line as last in our field. So let's take a look at what the results are of the 3rd round of our championship. Cassoni took the win, starting from P3. Actually, got a crash on track, but still managed to fight back and overtake Silverio for the win. Well, if there's an absolute cinema award we could give out, I would absolutely give it to these 2 guys. And also Pranis, he's been maintaining a very consistent performance in the championship, scoring 3rd positions. So I think he will definitely at least hold on to his position in the championship standing as well. Moving on to GT3, Sandersky managed to score the win as Cambo, who started from P1, had some severe issues and had to get out of the race server. Still classified, still finished the race, but only in P4, which won't help him that much in the championship standings, although it's only, well, I don't know if I can say only, as we're slowly approaching the halftime of the season. But what I am aiming at is that he still does have room to make up for these hiccups. And in P2, Simon Martek, he had quite the uneventful race, as I would say. Still very confidently taking that P2. And Hillman, who was the last at the qualifying session, as I said, with a very consistent and safe and sound performance, actually managed to take a podium position in GT3. And in LMP2, Malakauskas, yet again, after Silverstone, wins the top class in our race. With Lenartic, also kind of like in TCR, having a very close fight with him, but the Lithuanian driver got the edge on Lenartic and managed to ditch the win. And Nogowski also, his first podium in the season. Of course, you could say that it's very easy when there are only 3 drivers in your class, but, you know, they say that in order to finish, well, it's for first. In order to finish first, you have to finish. But well, let's just be a little lenient with that. Nogowski still did a very sound job with taking that car back home safely. So actually, let's see whether the championship standings are in. They very much are. So let's take a look at those also. Most importantly, of course. So 3 out of 3 for Cassoni so far. He had been unbeatable, although this was by far the closest anyone has got to a TCR win in the championship by Silverio, who had also collected 22 valuable points, getting P4 in the championship. And Prentice, actually, let me see. Yes, Prentice does overtake Olehar for P2 in the championship, also showing up in this race. So after the first 2 rounds, we can finally see some change in the TCR standings. Moving on to GT3, here P1 actually changed hands as Sanderski jumps ahead of Skriapis, who is back to P3. Sanderski leading with 67 points, 10 points ahead of Martek, who also got to overtake the Greek driver to take P2 in the championship. Very, very unfortunate race for Cambo. Last round, he showed a very dominant performance. Here, it was just a very unfortunate day for him. So he couldn't get any points as far as I can see. But still, and also a very big shout out to Hillman, who managed to get to P5 with participating only one race in only one race in the championship, with taking that P3 finish on the Interlagos race. And in LMP2, if I take a little look at my notes, Lenartic still manages to hold P1 in the LMP2 championship, but Malakauskas is now getting closer and closer. Only 11 points between these 2 guys in the championship. Milakauskas is definitely giving Lenarczyk a run for his money for the LMP2 win. And Nogowski is now only 4 points behind Huan in P3 in the LMP2 championship. So that's also a battle we will need to keep an eye out for. So that was it for the third round of the International Multiclass Series. We were finally able to hold the Interlagos round, but well, let's forget about the troubles of the past and let's look at the hopes and dreams of the future, which the next race will be just 1 week ahead from now, on the 11th of March, and we are going to Italy. If you are familiar with the Gran Turismo series, the name Lago Maggiore is absolutely not unfamiliar to you. It's a very interesting fictional racetrack with the probably one of the wackiest points of it being a long straight session, which is a huge decline, just driving down from a hill, and a banged right hand hairpin just at the end of the straight. I'll be very eager to see what three different classes of cars will be able to bring for that track. So now, without further ado, first I would like to thank. We would like to thank everyone who, after the troubles with the originally held Interlagos race last week, still sticked with us to participate in the race or to watch the stream. We thank you very much, guys, and we would love to, of course, as always, love to see more and more people on track. So if you happen to like what you saw here, and if you want to be part of the action, absolutely do not hesitate to join the championship on worldsimseries.com. You can find the link to the championship in the description, because the more cars on track, the more fun the racing is, obviously. So that was it for today for IMS. We are slowly approaching the half time of the championship, and absolutely nothing is decided in championship so far in terms of points. The top threes are still very close. So especially with people who, more precisely with races where certain people don't show up, it's always a interesting mixture of positions people get at the end of the races. So it's very interesting to see how the points of different guys are always just seem to be changing up from now on in the championship. So do stick with us if you are curious how will this turn out at the 8th round far in the future. So that was it for today for IMS. There's nothing else for now than to say the sad goodbyes, but worry not, you only have to wait 1 week before the next race begins. But until then, stay safe and see you guys next race.